Hello, and welcome to my little channel. Purpose of this is to share a little bit more of myself, the way I see the world, and shit that I do because, vlogs and YouTube, social media, where life is headed. Yeah. So, my name is Ev, or at least that's what I go by. Full name is Evelyn. Just Ev, okay? Thank you. I've been on what you call a spiritual journey since about 2016 or so. I had an awakening sometime then. And, okay, let's back up. Before that, I was born in Mexico. I had some younger siblings, and I moved to the U.S. in 2000. And as a kid, I grew up somewhat isolated just because of the way my parents thought. I wasn't allowed to have too many friends, and that kind of shaped the way I thought and stopped me from having a lot of friends as I got older and was able to make my own decisions in a way. But yeah, I was a very weird kid. And one of the things I remember most is my confusion with emotions. Like forgiving, I remember I had the hardest time with forgiving. Or when if I got angry, they would tell me to let it go, and I had no idea what the fuck that meant. So you're telling me I'm holding on to it? Where is it? How do you let it go? I'm not holding it. It's not here. I'm not holding it. And then as I got older, they started teaching me that you sort of Mexicans, or if you're into herbalism, they kind of believe you store anger here in the pit of your stomach. So sometimes when you get a bad tummy ache, it's because you're avoiding anger or you didn't process it, so now your body's doing it for you. But yeah, that was one of those things I had trouble with. Forgiving, anger, just processing different emotions. One, my parents didn't really teach me, and two, you go to school and they don't teach you about that either. You gotta learn math and how to read and how to write and shit like that. But not how to deal with yourself, you gotta learn that on your own. And I feel like I had a really hard time understanding what that meant. Like I dreamt about it. Like as a kid, I had dreams about how when I was older I'd be interviewed and I would have these great stories. I'm a Leo, okay? Well, I would have these great stories about how I overcame whatever the fuck, all these different obstacles in my life, and how it just made me this awesome person, very giving and loving, and now I'm an example to others, and yada yada. And I would just fucking fantasize about this in my room. And somewhere along the way, I kind of lost that. I don't know. Actually, I do know. My mom adopted different religions. And those different ideas or the fact that there is even a mention of the end of the world, frightened me so much that in a way I decided not to live or have goals. I would dream about it, but I didn't see them as something that was attainable for me. I'm not sure exactly what broke or when it broke, but I didn't see them as something that was possible for me up until maybe a few years ago, where I decided to explore things outside of, what had been taught to me, which was primarily religion. My mom went from, Catholicism to Seventh day Adventist, I think they're called. She dabbled into like Presbyterian for a while, and then can't remember what else we tried, but we went to Mexico for a year, and when we came back, she adopted Jehovah's Witnesses, and that happened in my teenage years, which is when you're shaping who you are mostly, you know, and for many years I resented her and just myself in many ways because I just I was mad that I felt like I didn't get to have a normal, childhood or grew up like other kids. I had to be at home. My friends had to be from I either they were witnesses or they couldn't come over the house. Like I really wasn't allowed to bring friends from school over. I was allowed to have friends and acquaintances in school, but um, because they were worldly or weren't really interested in what witnesses call the truth, I wasn't allowed to get too close to them. So that was what I feel like hindered me a lot in my development, and that I don't I'm just now understanding exactly what that did and how to like change it. And it hasn't been easy. For a long time I felt like I was broken. Like something was wrong with me. And up until very recently I started going to therapy, and my therapist explained that a lot of what we think is wrong with us isn't necessarily that it's wrong, it's just things that happen to us and how we dealt with it and how we deal with things that remind us of those moments. And when you are aware of that, you're able to make a better decision for yourself. Now you're in a place where you can actually protect yourself, you can actually speak up for yourself, be an advocate for your person, and stand up for your own boundaries, which I'm still working on, if I am entirely honest. Yeah. I didn't think boundaries were as important as they are. And I didn't think saying no was as hard as it feels sometimes. Like, how easily does saying no to someone come to you? Like, if someone comes to you and asks you for something, can you immediately say no? Like, and do you just flat out say no? Do you say no with a reason? Do you apologize when you say no? How do you process that? I learned that says a lot about you as a person. It said a lot about me because say no doesn't, like, I don't immediately say no. I'll be like, but see what had happened, what, the thing around it, and then I beat around the bush when I could just say no. And a lot of the time people want explanations as to why you can't do something for them to justify why you're saying no. And you have to stand by your no and still say, I can't do it. Because regardless of what it is that you have to do or that you don't have to do, if you say no, someone has to respect that. And upholding that isn't easy. Or it'll come easy or difficult to you, depending honestly on how you were raised and how you perceive life as you get older. That's just that. So yeah, I've been in many ways relearning life, or what I thought life meant, I had to see sometime when my mom picked up, you know, what they consider the truth. It was something that didn't fit in my heart. I was a teenager then, and I couldn't explain to it. I couldn't make sense of it, of why I didn't feel right. But the best way I could put it was, the way God is described in the Bible doesn't fit in my heart, and I didn't have the guts to say it then. So I went along with it. I would go out to preach. I would go out, I was faking this interest in something that I honestly did not believe in. I did not stand for any of that. Did I believe in Jesus? Yes. Did I believe in God? Yes. But as described in the Bible, it was just, to me, it was jumbled up. It didn't make sense. And even more, the way they interpreted confused me even more. In some ways, it made sense. Some of their logic made sense, but at the same time, it made me very confused, and I wasn't sure how to talk about that. So, sometime in 2015, I was going to the meetings. I was preaching, and I was working at BMW. And sometime, I don't know, something there hit me. Like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't want to fucking work here forever, you know? And college just didn't call my interest when I was in high school. Granted, I was also discouraged from it, which kind of set in also, like, you know, subconsciously I was holding on to I'm partially still holding on to it, this belief that I am not enough, and it's been ingrained for, like, ever. And it was just different scenarios that, I lived through that kind of made that sink in more. And it's just, things I have to let go of. Their fucking opinion doesn't hold weight over me unless I let it. And yeah, still something to just let go of. But where were we? Sometime in 2015, yes, I got hit with, like, the realization. I don't know, does it, like, happen to all humans, where you're just like, what am I gonna do with my life? Why are we here? What's going on? What the fuck? And I found this, like, trade school where you went to school full time for, like, 5 months, and then you got an internship for 6 months, all, like, IT based, around computers and project management, all that kind of stuff. So, given the schedule I had at BMW, I'd have to leave a job to go to school. Now, the school gave us a stipend every month, but it wasn't nearly enough to cover, anything, shit. Although I appreciate what they did give us. But, yeah, I decided to go to school. I told my parents about it, but I was never very, like, I didn't tell them I was having these thoughts. I just told them, like, oh, I found a school. I've decided I'm going to go, but I'm going to have to quit my job if I do. And they were like, okay, I understand. They were somewhat supportive. They had questions, but they still let me go through with it. So, yeah, I started school, and in school they had, the approach was very different. You had to, like, dress business-like. It was in downtown San Francisco in this building that was essentially switched around to be classrooms and shit. So, had to dress professional. In the mornings you would have these, like, Monday and Friday would have get-togethers with, your class. Honestly, all the words that they used are not even coming to me, but we sort of like advisory we would have, and we would do shout outs, and we would also have these times where we would encourage people to do better, or like, oh, I noticed you did this, or but I encourage you to do this because I noticed that like you weren't doing this and this, or you were having a hard time doing your homework. If you need help, I'll be there for you or whatever. And it showed me a different side of life outside of what I was used to in the congregation and in school. It was the first. It was one of those first exposures I got to what the real world was, and it surprised me. I was like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought. Like, these people aren't as evil as they've been taught. They people keep saying they're not as bad. They like to go out to, they go out to drink and do shit, but they're just, trying to do what's best for them. They got goals. They want to get somewhere in life, and I started having friends. Shit, I looked for a job as well. And what this meant was that I would be gone from home all day because I found a job at Banana Republic. And my schedule was set up to where I would get off school and then go straight to work. And then I would get off work around 10, get home around 11. Now, they didn't like it one bit because it's very unladylike to be out at dark. Like, why would a lady expose themselves like that? One mustn't. So, and they said I had no need for it. Which to me made no sense because I was getting pennies for a stipend, and I had things I wanted to buy, I had things I wanted to save for, and I just wanted more freedom. So they just didn't understand it, and I didn't. Honestly, we got background music, why not? But yeah, they didn't agree with it, and honestly, I didn't care to explain it too much. Like, I grew up very reserved and introverted, and I kept them out for a lot of just even more things that happened in my childhood that we're not gonna get into in this video. But yeah, it was just resentment I held against my mom that stopped me from kind of opening up to them. So yeah, by this time I'm 21 or 22, and so I went. I started working. They were against it, of course, but the way I met them halfway was that I had my days off were the days that I could go to the meetings with them and go out to preach. So I had Thursday off to meet them in the evening for Bible study. Then I had Saturday mornings off so that I could go preaching, and then Sundays so I could go to the meetings. Like, that's the way I worked it out. Then I started to have friends. I started, little boo or whatever. Met up with them after school. I felt like a fucking child now that I think about it. Like, having to fucking meet up with my boyfriend after school because I gotta hide him from my mom, and I'm in my fucking 20s. Even now it just upsets the fuck out of me. But anyway, I found a way to work it out. I went as far as telling her that I had to work more days than I really did. Like, on my days off, I would go out with my friends, or I would go be with my little, and that's the way I felt like I was living a double life, but I felt like I was finally living for once. Until my mom started catching on, obviously. And she didn't take it too well, obviously. She was scared that I was, going to get snatched up by the world, that the devil was going to get his claws on me, that I was just going to be badly influenced, all this kind of stuff. And now that I look back at it, I can't necessarily recall how this came up. Oh, here it is. One day I started testing my mom. It started arriving a little later and later when I was out with my boyfriend. So, yeah, I remember it was 4th of July, and by this time, I didn't really answer her calls when she was calling me at bar. I'd play off like I was sleeping or something. I didn't really want to talk to her. And now that I look back at it, I feel honestly bad, and I am sorry for not communicating with her. I felt like I couldn't. And that's also on me for not even trying, because I should have. But anyway, on this day, I got home hella late. Uh, he had to drive me over the bridge and drop me off by the BART station, subway, or I don't know, whoever you're watching this. But yeah, so I walked out through the other side. My parents were there watching me, and my mom knew. We all knew, but I was just like, yeah, Bart, we got delayed over the train. And she was like, well, I didn't hear any train. And I was like, clearly I just got off on Long. Like, how else would I get here? Clearly I was fucking lying, but I stood by my lies. And, yeah, we got... Actually, I can't even remember if she showed up to pick me up. I think it was just my stepdad. But I do remember that when we got home, we lived in this townhouse, and it's a little hallway. You know, the front door, a little hallway, and then another door, and it's the bedrooms. And then the kitchen, living room are upstairs. It's kind of weird, but I didn't make it past that hallway, y'all. My mom cussed me out. We ended up damn near fighting. I didn't put hands on her, but I wasn't letting her put hands on me. And it got so bad that she told me she wanted to take my phone. Again, I'm in my 20s. And she wanted to take my phone. And I was, she'd done it before, but this time, I wasn't letting it happen. So I told her no. And I was disrespectful enough to be like, I'll pay you for the electricity I use to, I'll pay you for the PG&E I use to charge this, but I won't give you the phone. So she started wrestling me for it. And then when she realized she couldn't take it, she tried to break it in my pocket. Like, it got serious. And my stepdad came out, and he's telling me to stop fighting her, to just let her have it. And I'm over here like, you could tell her to stop. Like, she's over here, my mom's older. Anything could have happened. I hear her over here, like, almost hyperventilating, trying to take this phone. And I understand she was mad and all, I felt her emotions. I knew she was pissed the fuck off at me. I was being trifling. I understand that. But she was putting her health in danger. And he could have just told her to fucking stop. He saw it, but he was telling me to give in so she could win. And for the first time in my entire life, I wasn't going to let her do that. So, I'm not sure how she stopped, but she was mad. And in our very good fashion, we just all walked away silently. The next day, I got up early. Oh, I'll add, up until this point, I've been my mom's, right-hand person. Whenever she, I helped her with everything. I helped her clean up the house. I helped her with my siblings. If she was ever feeling sick, I would make dinner. Wherever she needed help, I was there. And because I was going to school and working, I wasn't there to be that help anymore. So I feel like that sort of threw her off, and she wasn't sure how to process that. And that was kind of her way of saying it. And plus, she was just flat out scared that I was going to get really, that anything could happen to me while I was out in these streets. And I understand that, but at the same time, you gotta live. So anyway, where were we? Yes, the fight somehow ended, and in our family's fashion, we just walked away, like silently. We all walked away. I walked away, went up to my room, and the next day, my stepdad picked me up by himself, and he sat down with me in the living room and told me that now there were rules to follow if I wanted to stay in the house. He said the rules were I had to pay some rent, which I didn't have a problem. He just left it to my discretion, told me to look around how much would people pay for the room and how much could I afford, and to give them something. Instead of them just telling me, but hey, there was, I had to quit my job and help around the house more. And I had to leave my phone because my mom concluded that the problem was my phone, that I was being too distracted. Whoever I was in contact with on my phone was just a bad influence on me. So they told me that my phone was to stay in the living room overnight. Yeah, my phone was not allowed to go in my room. And the last one was that I had to install a app on my phone that told them where they were, told them where I was 24/7. Like a GPS tracker thing, but for families. And this came from like it was a suggestion from someone from the church, man. They do it with their kids, so they thought it was a good idea to suggest that to my family. And yeah, my stepdad told me that if I wanted to stay, those were the rules. They were gonna give me some time to think about it, but if not, that was it. That was that. I didn't really give them an answer, and I installed the app, but I would play with the settings, turn it off, turn it on when I wanted. They knew I was in school, but then I turned it off because I didn't really want them to know where I was. Like, I told you where my school was. I told you where my job was. Like, do you want my manager's phone number to like personally call them? Like, I'm not sure how much information you need here. But at the same time, I wasn't really giving them much because by that time I was in the friends I did have at church weren't like, they piqued my interest, but it wasn't like we were heavily bonding. Like, we had different interests. These were kids who were, in some ways, they were really uppity. They were interested in fucking designers and honestly very superficial shit. As much as they went around and preached about God and Jesus humility and shit, they were very fucking full of themselves, and I didn't know how to connect to that. Like, I'm gonna get emotional here, but I feel like I was raised to be a nobody and to be surrounded by people who fucking went to get their hair done every week, to get their nails done, who are so full of themselves. And like, how do you show up to church with a fucking designer suit and then have the nerve to fill yourself with like Jesus? Like, my man was out here dressing in rags and sandals, and you telling me you're following their example, but you carry yourself like full of ego, and it just wasn't something I could connect with, and it just fucking confused me. And I didn't want to tell that to my mom because I didn't want to be seen as like an enemy of the church, because I didn't feel like one. It didn't sit with me. And that was my biggest fear. Like, that if I came forward and told my mom these thoughts that I was having, that she would like label me as what they call an apostate, which is someone who's like against Jehovah and against the religion, and just someone you downright should avoid and not speak to. And that, since I left, has been my fear, that my family will cut me off, that I won't get to see my siblings. That's been like the biggest scare. And I think that's a very fucked up way to live, or to subject people to live. Like, how do you shun your kids out of, how do you stop talking to your kids because they don't share the same beliefs as you? How is that a reflection of a loving God? How does that make sense? How does that make fucking sense? I don't get it. And honestly, it's not something that I'm looking for an answer for either. It's just, I don't know. I get confused and it hurts that, even if you have an answer for those things, people are still free to believe and follow whatever they want, even if it doesn't serve them or you, they're still free to make that choice for themselves. And as much as my family thinks I'm not doing good, or I'm not, being taken care of by God, or I'm not in God's favor, doesn't really make that true. It's just beliefs that we have. It's just fucking ideas. And it's funny that we guide ourselves in this like solid ass 3D form with, that's my puppy. He's having a bad dream. It's okay, guy. Hey, it's okay. But yeah, it's find it funny that we're so dead set on everything being solid, or being dense, or having a very specific certain form. But we're like governed by thoughts, something that we cannot see, something that we cannot touch. You can't touch your beliefs. You can't touch your identity. If someone says, "Who are you?" you can't fucking look at something outside of you and be like, "Yeah, that's me." They're all in here. But your brain is just this fucking muscle with electricity running through it and making fucking little connections, little fucking circuits just go off and project images into your mind, project thoughts, project voices, project all these different things somewhere in there. Like fucking, I don't know if they've proved it yet, but I don't think scientists have. Like they haven't proven that this happens in there. Like, you see things, right? You hear things, right? We can do a quick exam, a quick test right here. Without moving your mouth, without using your vocal cords, without using any part of your physical body, using your voice, and I'm gonna count down to 1, from 3 to 1. You tell me your name. Wait, 3, 2, 1. Somebody in here said a name, right? My name is, and it just goes off in here. Who is speaking? And if your ears are out here, who's talking in there? So while we're sitting here thinking that we're just this human body, there's things about this experience that we haven't fully fucking explored. We are human beings. And we're so caught up on the human aspect of it that we haven't even explored what it means to be. What does it mean to be a being? Like, are you aware that you're alive? Are you aware that you are here? Or do you fucking disassociate? Do you disconnect because you don't want to be here? And trust me, I've been there, and I'm constantly working with myself to bring myself out of those states, because I am quick to be like, I don't want to be here. Let's pretend, make up a scenario that I like and prefer in here. And In many ways, I learned that that's a trauma response of mine that I have to work with. To just observe the outside for what it is instead of taking it to heart and feeling like it's all my fucking fault. Like things will be caused by a fucking, it could be a sheer, like a brutal accident just that happened, and I'll sit here, internalize it, and blame it on myself for no reason, because that's how I wired my subconscious. That's just these beliefs that I'm working through to undo somewhere down here because they don't serve me anymore. I'm not sure who along the way told me I wasn't enough, but they did. And then I put myself, or I was just found myself in scenarios that put me further into that, until one day I decided I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to find out more about myself, fucking get out there, do shit, live. Oh shit. The things fucking humans do. But I'm not sure what disconnected, and I just went to work, came home, and left my dreams in dreamland. So this is probably the first video of a series where I challenge myself to speak about how I truly feel and think. For a very long time, I kept myself from sharing that because I felt like I wasn't being seen, I wasn't being heard, or just people didn't want to hear me. And what's the point of speaking if no one wants to hear you? But really, this is for myself, because for a very long time I've been essentially talking the talk and not really walking the walk. So I've been half-assing my own journey out of fear of what someone's going to think or how someone's going to see it, or what effect is this going to have. And honestly, may it fall where it needs to. If any of this triggered you, check in with yourself and ask yourself why, how. This video isn't aimed to insult, disrespect, or come at anyone foul, or any of my videos. It's just sharing my experience and the way I perceive things, and how I'm working to change some of those perceptions, because they don't fucking serve me anymore. They don't do me any good. Honestly, whether the world ends or not, and honestly, life as we know it is over, if you really want to be honest. But whether it ends or not, does it really matter? Is your life not going to end when you die anyway? Like, should you not be worried about living more than you are worried about fucking dying? Like, what's the point of getting up every fucking day if you're not choosing to live? And contrary to popular belief, let me remind you that you are a very sovereign being. That you can do quite literally whatever the fuck you want. The possibilities are endless. It is you who's narrowed down your perception of what's possible. That's why you're only seeing 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 possibilities, when really you're surrounded by these hoes. You really are. So you are free to do whatever you want. It does come with fucking consequences. You do have to own up to the shit that you do. You gotta live with what you do, whether it's good or bad, or whether you did it or didn't do it. It's a part of life. So you gotta make it worth it. Do it for you, guys. And I'm looking at my reflection, because honestly, this video is for myself, to hype myself up so I can do more of these, because this is what I like to do. and I gotta go tend to my puppies. So we'll be back with more of these. I thank you for taking the time out to view however much you did of this. Um, if you're interested in tuning in to more, feel free, yada yada. Thank you for being here. I honor you. I love you. I thank you. You have a good night, good day, wherever you are.